All right, everyone, welcome to our second domain. In this domain, we are going to be learning about ancient civilizations. You may have already learned about some ancient civilizations in your class last year, such as the ancient Egyptian civilization, and the Incan civilization. Let's talk about ancient civilizations and what those words mean. The word ancient means very old, and the word civilization is an advanced or very developed society that often has cities, farming, leaders, writing, and religion. So an ancient civilization is one that is very old and was formed many, many years ago. In first grade, you probably already learned about the Mayan civilization, the Aztec civilization, the Incan civilization, the Egyptian civilization, and the Mesopotamian civilization. Take a minute to think about what you remember learning about these ancient civilizations. Last year, you also learned what key components or characteristics make up a civilization. There are 5 key components of a civilization. Those key components are cities, jobs, leaders, writing, and religion. Let's go over some of the things that you learned last year to help spark your memory. An important job in many ancient cities was farming. Cities often formed around large rivers so that people could farm. The ancient Egyptian civilization in Africa formed along the Nile River. This is an image of that civilization. Which 2 components of a civilization are represented by this image? In this image, we see jobs and cities. We can see the pyramids in the background. One of the first civilizations was called Mesopotamia. It developed in the area now known as the Middle East. This is a map showing the area in which the Mesopotamian civilization developed, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Like all ancient civilizations, Mesopotamia had a government and laws. One of Mesopotamia's leaders, King Hammurabi, created a written set of laws known as the Code of Hammurabi. All civilizations have large cities with a form of government. The Incan civilization, an early American civilization, had a city known as Machu Picchu. This is Machu Picchu today. Early civilizations such as the Maya, Aztec, Inca, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian civilizations all had a religion. In all of these civilizations, the people believed in many gods and goddesses. Civilizations also had a system of writing. This is an image of hieroglyphs used by the people of ancient Egypt. Here is another example of writing from an ancient civilization. This writing comes from Mesopotamia and is known as cuneiform. In this domain, we are going to be learning about 2 different ancient civilizations. The Indus River Valley Civilization, otherwise known as the Ancient Indian Civilization, and the Ancient Chinese Civilization. These civilizations will have many of the key components that we just reviewed. Both of these civilizations are located in the continent of Asia. Asia is highlighted on our map here. The 2 most populous countries, or those with the most people, are located in Asia. Those 2 countries are India, shown on our map in green, and China, shown on the map in orange. More than 1 billion people live in each of these countries today. Today, we are going to begin learning about the ancient Indus River Valley civilization that began in India. Ancient India included the modern-day countries of India, shown in orange on our map, and Pakistan, shown in green. These are two separate countries today, but in ancient times, it was all one big country called India. Later on in our domain, we will also learn about China. We will hear what life was like for the people who lived in these two ancient civilizations all those years ago. We will also learn about some of the inventions that were created in these ancient civilizations. Inventions that are still used in Asia and all around the world today. We'll start learning with our read aloud, but first we need to go over some vocabulary words. Indus River. The Indus River is an important river at the center of the first civilization in early India. It flows through the modern-day countries of Pakistan and India. Irrigation canals. Irrigation canals are ditches that are cut into the ground to send water where it is needed. The Egyptians used irrigation canals to move water from the Nile River to their crops. Common. If something is common, it is known by most people, or it is something that is ordinary. We call the common cold common because it happens every year, and a lot of people become infected with the common cold. Cultivate. Cultivate means to grow or tend to a crop or plant. My dad and I, every summer, would plant and then cultivate tomatoes in a garden. Fertile. Fertile means rich in the minerals or nutrients needed to produce many strong, healthy crops. Plants need good, fertile soil in order to grow tall and strong. Wherever you're at, I'm going to have you stand up, and I want you to act like you are a plant that has been planted in fertile soil. If you are a plant that has been planted in fertile soil, you are going to grow up nice and strong. So I want you to stretch your arms up all the way up to the ceiling, as high as you can go. Now we're going to pretend to be a plant that was planted in infertile soil. A plant that has been planted in soil that is not fertile will not grow very well and will not grow very strong. So I'm going to have you kind of crouch on the floor and maybe reach your hands up just a little bit above your head, but not very much higher, because you don't have the nutrients in that soil to help you grow the way you need to. These snow-covered peaks are part of the Himalayas, a mountain range that stretches for miles across Asia, forming the highest mountain peaks in the world. Can you guess what happens to the snow on these peaks as it melts? That's right. The snow turns into water and travels down the mountainsides to form rivers in the valleys below. Water from the melting snows of the Himalayas combines with heavy spring rains, which fills rivers and causes them to regularly overflow their banks. Fertile soil that's good for growing food, from the river's beds spreads out over nearby fields. As the water floods the valleys, it leaves behind this nutrient-rich soil, perfect for growing crops. Let's act out that process for a little bit. First, I want you to pretend to be the snow-covered peaks of the Himalayas. Stand up tall and straight with your hands above your heads and your fingertips touching, so you're forming a triangle shape like the peaks of the Himalaya mountains. Now, you're going to be the melting snow rushing into the river, Move your hands down, 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 past your head, down past your body, all the way to the floor. And make a whooshing sound to represent the melting snow and the water flowing over the riverbanks, and the soil left on the land around the river. Great civilizations all around the world have sprung up in river valleys. Taking advantage of the rich, fertile soil in these valleys, people learned to grow their own crops. Because of this, people began to stay in one place instead of constantly moving in search of food. Remind me again, what does the word fertile mean? That's right, it's nutrient rich and allows crops and plants to grow. Beneath the Himalayan mountains in Asia, along the banks of the mighty Indus River, one such civilization was born. Every year, snow from the Himalayas melts. The water from the melting snow and the heavy spring rains floods the Indus River, leaving rich soil on the land around the river. More than 4,000 years ago, people spread out across the Indus River Valley. Taking advantage of the rich soil, they settled near the river and began to cultivate wheat, barley, peas, dates, melons, and bananas. So why were these people able to settle around the Indus River? Yes, because the river overflowed and left fertile soil that was good for farming. These people knew that if they wanted to live near the river, they would have to control the floodwaters. They developed ways to control the rising waters by building irrigation canals to hold some of the water back and to release some of the water into the fields when needed. As their communities grew, these people worked together to plan and build permanent cities by the river. Remember, an irrigation canal is a ditch that is cut into the earth and it directs water to where it's needed. There were many permanent cities by the Indus River. Not so very long ago, archaeologists uncovered Mohenjo-daro, one of the most thriving cities of the ancient Indus River Valley. I want you to say the name of that city with me. It was Mohenjo-daro. Ready? Say that with me. Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro. All right. A city enclosed by brick walls, Mohenjo-daro was designed in a square, grid-like pattern. The citadel, the fortress or protected area at the city's center, housed its leaders, priests who were members of the ruling class that performed both religious and governmental duties. Beyond the citadel, spreading out in all directions of the city, a web of roads led to the homes of countless workers. Everyone had a job to do. Some farmed the land outside of the city walls, some made bricks from the river's muddy soil, and others fashioned these baked bricks into buildings. So we're already seeing some of our key components of a civilization in the Indus River Valley. We see that they had a city with a protected citadel, they had religion, and they had jobs such as farmers, brick makers, and bricklayers. Other people in the Indus River Valley had other jobs. For example, fine craftsmen designed jewelry and distinctive stone seals carved with pictures of buffalo, elephants, and tigers, a form of writing. Archaeologists uncovered many of these stone seals, but they are not sure what the purpose of the seals was. And all over the city, merchants bought and sold their wares. Wares are goods that they made to sell, such as pottery, jewelry, or bread. The city's wide streets, lined with flat-topped brick buildings, were easy for their common bull carts to navigate. If those bull carts are common, does that mean that there's only a few of them and you don't see them very often? No, that means that there are lots of them and are known by most people. The city of Mohenjo-daro was part of the Indus River Valley civilization. We say that certain groups have a civilization when they have cities with large buildings, a division of labor, which means everyone has a certain job to do, and some form of writing, to name just a few things. The city of Mohenjo-daro had all of these things. In our next lesson, you will hear what it might have been like to live in the city of Mohenjo-daro, a part of the Indus River Valley civilization.
Hello everyone. We just finished our first read aloud about ancient Asia, We learned a lot about an ancient civilization. I want to know, where was that civilization formed? You've got it. It was formed on the Indus River. How did the Himalayas contribute to the formation of the civilizations that were on the Indus River? How did the Himalayas contribute to the formation of that civilization, those civilizations? Exactly. Those mountains were covered in snow, and when that snow melted, it ran down the mountains and formed rivers that allowed the civilizations to flourish. On this screen behind me, I know it's a little bit hard to see. We talked about this in our read aloud. These are irrigation canals. I want to know, what was the purpose of the irrigation canals? Why did people dig these irrigation canals? You've got it. They dug the irrigation canals so they could control where the water was going, and they could direct it to their crops. All right, I want you to turn to your friend or parent or neighbor, whoever's there helping you. And for just a few minutes, I want you to talk about some of the features of the Indus River communities that were common among ancient civilizations. So what were some things about the Indus River communities that were common among ancient civilizations? Talk about that with whoever's there with you for just a few minutes. Some of those things that you might have talked about that were common among ancient civilizations were cities that had large buildings, an organized religion, a community where everyone had a specific job to do, and a government that was set up. All right, we've got just a few more questions before we move on. Why was a civilization able to form in the Indus River on the continent of Asia? Why was a civilization able to form in the Indus River on the continent of Asia, the Indus River Valley? What was it about the river that made a civilization able to form there? One thing that helped was that the land was fertile. Remember, fertile means that something is able to grow very easily there. It has all of the nutrients the land had all of the nutrients that it needed for things to grow and to flourish. The land near the river became fertile because of the regular flooding of the river. The fertile soil allowed people to stay in one place and grow lots of crops. What was it that caused all of that flooding? The Indus River flooded every spring. What happened that made it flood? What was the cause? You've got it. There's a couple things that helped it flood. There was lots of heavy spring rain and all of the snow melting from the peaks of the Himalayas. What did those floodwaters leave behind? It would flood the river, and then when the water went back down, what did it leave behind? It left behind all of those nutrients in that fertile soil. And how did that fertile soil help the people living near the river? Why is it important that people have fertile soil? You've got it. That fertile soil helped people plant food that they could eat. You can't have a civilization without people, and you can't have people without food. We have to eat to survive. So that fertile soil let people grow crops that they were able to eat. All right, my friends, I'm going to have you open the first PDF on this assignment now. That should be a map. During this unit, we are going to do what we're calling a map quest. So we're going to explore the areas that we're talking about and record them on our map so we remember where everything is. Go ahead and get that open. I'm going to jump over to my screen so I can show you what to do. All right, my friends, when you first open this first PDF, it will be sideways. So the first thing we want to do is reorient it so it's facing the right direction. To do that, you're going to come up to these three bars in the top right corner. These three bars should say menu. When you click on that, it will give you this drop-down menu. If we scroll down to about the middle here, we can rotate counter or clockwise. We're going to go clockwise so that we have our map facing the correct direction. All right, oops, didn't mean to do that text box. All right, my friends, I want you to pull up that PDF, open it up and flip it sideways, and we're going to fill this out together today. This is the map that we will be using for our map quest. So in our map quest, we're going to use this map to document all of the cities and geological features that we are learning about in this domain. Some of those features will be our rivers and mountains that we're talking about. This map is a map of the continent Asia. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to title it Asia. We're going to say what country this is, and that's very small, so I'm going to increase my font size so I can see it just a little bit better. You can leave yours small, it doesn't matter what size it is. I just want you to be able to see it even a little bit bigger. All right, we have got our title for our map. We now know this is the continent of Asia. Today we learned about the country India. India in ancient times was different than it is today. Today the country India is a little bit smaller than it was back then. I'm going to have you now go to your drawing tool and we're going to choose this orange color. In this orange color, that's probably about the size we need, we are going to outline what ancient India was. Ancient India includes the modern-day countries of India and Pakistan. So this section right here around this border is modern-day Pakistan, but back then it was part of India. So I'm going to start at the bottom here, at the bottom of India, and I'm going to follow my border. I'm going to include modern-day Pakistan because in ancient times, it was part of India. There we go. It doesn't have to be exact. Now, there's this tricky little section up here. This little piece of the land that we just went around was not part of ancient India, and it is also not part of modern-day India.
All right, there is our border for ancient India. Ancient India. We want to label that so I know what this border means. So I'm going to go back to my text box. I want to do a little bit smaller for this one. And just in the middle, I'm going to say ancient India. All right, we also talked about a very important river that allowed civilizations to develop in ancient India. This important river is the Indus River. The Indus River, we are going to draw again, but this time we're going to use blue. The Indus River is shown on our map. It is this dotted line that goes up to these mountains. There we go. That is the Indus River. So we don't forget what that blue line means, we also want to label that one. So I'm going to add a text box that says Indus River. And I'm going to put it next to my river. Remember, friends, on our map, we have a compass down here that lets us know what direction we're looking at. Usually in a map, the top is north, the bottom is south, east is to the right, and west is to the left. We don't write out the words though, we just use N, E, S, and W. So our Indus River is towards the north of ancient India. It's in the northwest part of ancient India. Also in the north, but closer to the east side this time, there are some mountains that we learned about that were also very important to the development of civilization because these mountains allowed the Indus River to flow. These mountains were called the Himalayas. These ones I'm not going to have you cover so we don't get our map too busy, but I do want you to label them. Himalayas. Put that just above the mountains so we can read it. All right, those Himalayas were important because they were covered in snow, and in the spring that snow would run off into the Indus River and leave behind important nutrients that let civilizations flourish because it allowed people to grow crops. All right, the last thing we learned about today was one of the first civilizations that was formed on the Indus River. This was the city of Mohenjo-Daro. Mohenjo-Daro is shown on our map in this little red dot by the bank of the Indus. We are going to go back to our drawing tool, and this time we're going to use the color red. I'm going to fill in the spot where Mohenjo-Daro is in red. And of course, so I don't forget what that red dot means, we want to label it. Mohenjo-Daro. Put that one right next to it. All right, my friends, this is all that we are going to fill out on our map today because these are the only places we learned about today. We'll come back to this map in future lessons and we'll keep adding to it as we learn more about the Indus River Valley and later about ancient China. All right, when you are done, when your map looks like mine, go ahead and hit submit in the top right corner and then jump to the next PDF and I will tell you what we are going to do on that one. All right, my friends, on this assignment, there is a small picture of the Indus River Valley. We saw this image in our read aloud, and I will attach another version of a colored version, of this image in the assignment so that you can look back at the picture with colors to help you with this assignment. What we are going to do on this assignment is practice our writing skills. So on this assignment, There are some lines. You'll probably want to use a text box for this one. I want you to tell me about the Indus. All right, my friends, on this one, there is a picture of the Indus River. We talked about the Indus River and we saw an image of it in our read aloud. I'm going to post that photo on the assignment so you can see it in color as well as this one in black and white on your assignment. For this assignment, we are going to practice our writing skills. Underneath this picture of the Indus River, there are some lines for you to tell me about it. I want you to tell me what you remember about the Indus River Valley. What did it look like? How was it formed? Why was it important? And how did it allow civilizations to flourish in ancient India? Tell me what you remember from our read aloud about the Indus River and why it was so important for those ancient civilizations. As you're writing, I want to make sure we're writing really good descriptive sentences. So if a sentence is descriptive, that means that it gives us a lot of details, and it helps the person that's reading what you wrote visualize it in their mind. So if I say, Johnny had a ball, if I asked you what you were thinking about, how you visualized Johnny's ball, you might see a red ball. And you might be seeing a kickball-sized red ball. But if I asked someone else, they might be visualizing a green bouncy ball. I didn't give a lot of description in that sentence for you to know what that ball looked like. If I wanted to be more descriptive, I would add some details and describing words to explain what the ball looked like. So I might say that Johnny had a small blue and red striped bouncy ball. All of those extra details help you have a clearer picture in your mind of what I'm describing. Let's see if we can practice telling the difference between sentences that are very descriptive and sentences that aren't descriptive. I'm going to read a couple sentences. If the sentence that I read is descriptive, I want you to say yes. If the sentence I read is not descriptive, I want you to say no. All right, if I say, tell me if this one is descriptive. I ate my lunch. No, that one's not very descriptive. I didn't tell you what I ate or how I ate it or what my lunch was or what it looked or smelled like. Not a lot of detail in that one. What about this one? The white, puffy clouds floated peacefully in the bright blue sky. Yes, that one is very descriptive. I explained that the clouds were white and puffy and that the sky was bright and blue. I also explained how the clouds were moving. I said they were moving peacefully. All of those extra details help put a clearer picture in your reader's mind. Let's try this one. The dog ran. No, there's not a lot of detail in that one. What about the shiny black cat jumped gracefully from chair to chair? There's a lot more detail. I'm telling you where the cat jumped from chair to chair, how the cat jumped gracefully, and what the cat looked like. The cat was shiny and black. What about this one? The screeching red fire engine roared down the street, racing to the fire. That one's pretty descriptive too. That one explains what the fire engine looked like and sounded like and how it moved. It used a really good word to describe how it moved too. It didn't just say that it drove towards the fire. It said it raced towards the fire, which lets us know that it was moving very, very quickly. In our descriptive sentences, we want to add describing words, but sometimes choosing really good action words can help make things more descriptive also. All right, my friends, I want you to write 2 or 3 descriptive sentences about the Indus River. You may look back at this photo in color on the assignment if you would like to. And I want you to give me 2 or 3 full sentences. Make sure you add some descriptive words to them to really help anyone that's reading it know what it actually looked like or why it was so important. That's what we want to write about too, not just what it looked like, but why was it so important? How did it help ancient Indian civilizations flourish? All right, my friends, when you are done with that one, as always, we'll turn it in the top right-hand corner, and you are done with your work for today, in knowledge anyway. We'll see you next time.